champion of bodybuilding, Mamdouh Al-Sibai, famous for Big Ramy. And on behalf of all Egypt Air and the flight crew, we are all pleased and honored to congratulate him for being ranked first in the world.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, Big Ramy makes his triumphant return to Egypt, flying there from New York. And interestingly enough, if you guys watch Big Ramy's stories, he got a hero's welcome at the check-in counter and on the actual airplane of Egypt Airlines flying from the U.S. to Egypt, which I thought was extremely cool that he was recognized in that way, because he's not even back over in Egypt yet. This was still in the States, but just the Egyptian Airlines that was flying him there gave him this hero's welcome. And you can also see in those stories, Ramy is wheeling around the Sandow trophy on top of his luggage, which is cool. It's kind of cool to see this behind-the-scenes look at a guy like Ramy, because you kind of try to imagine what someone the size of Big Ramy, you know, what kind of looks they get in public, or what the behind-the-scenes looks like when they're just walking through an airport. And it's kind of cool to see when he got on the plane, they greeted him, and they gave him like a whole introduction with the fact that he just won the Olympia. And I've just always wondered what it would be like to be Big Ramy for a day walking around in public. So let me roll some of those clips for you guys here. And again, congratulations again to Big Ramy. I think this is a deserving victory. I think this is the first Olympia win in a very long time that no one has disagreed with. I mean, there's usually been, for the past few years now, the results have been controversial. There have been people that said this guy shouldn't have won, that guy should have won, etc., etc. But this year, I think the bodybuilding world was pretty much unanimously behind Big Ramy winning this title. I didn't see, and I saw thousands of comments on my videos, I didn't see one single comment on any of my videos suggesting that somebody other than Ramy should have won. You guys know, with Phil, there's always people saying Kai should have won. With Brandon, people were saying Bonak or Hadi should have won. With Shaun, people were saying Phil should have won. I think this was the most decisive Olympia result in a very, very long time. So let's take a look at these clips.
Championship, Mr. Olympia 2020, which is the largest and most important professional bodybuilding world championship. Egypt Air wishes you success and always raising the Egyptian flag.
ألف مبروك يا كابتن ممدوح. السلام عليكم. أهلا عليكم. تشرفت بيكم. مرحبا الله يكرمك. شاكر ليكم على اللي انتم بتعملوه ده والله. Egypt Air and Egypt. Egypt, yeah. He never stopped to surprise me. Look at that guy. Yeah. You ready? You ready?
Now, next up in the news, Iris Kyle, one of the biggest stories going into this year's Mr. Olympia, was the return of female bodybuilding and the Miss Olympia to the stage. And one of the bigger stories coming out of that was the fact that 8-time Miss Olympia, Iris Kyle, would also be making her return to the Miss Olympia stage. Now, at the last minute, Iris Kyle had to withdraw from that competition due to some health concern. And today she finally put up a post on Instagram clarifying what happened. So Iris says, "Friends and fans, thank you for the kind messages. I'm happy to report that I got home safely from the Olympia. A special thank you to the Olympia athlete support team who promptly helped me obtain the initial medical help. When I started this contest prep, I never anticipated it would conclude with respiratory and circulatory problems so severe that it would land me in urgent care until 4 a.m. the day of the show." So this is what was interesting to me, because up until the day before the Olympia, they were still talking about the fact that Iris was competing. So I hadn't heard anything about her withdrawing from the show. And then when prejudging came around, she obviously wasn't on stage. She wasn't in the first call out. And I was surprised. I was like, where's Iris? And apparently, the last minute, she wasn't able to compete. So she goes on to say, "I am on a handful of medications and will be seeing a specialist shortly. This was not the outcome you or I expected, but I wasn't feasible to step on stage when I could barely stand and I was running a fever. I should be recovered in a few weeks and I will resume my regular routine. I was very excited to compete in our industry's most prestigious event, and even with the move to Orlando, I was prepared to compete. Never could I imagine my body suffering such a systemic shutdown, and my disappointment is staggering. It has made me realize how fortunate I was during my career with good health. Many people have spoken on the concept of getting knocked down, and sometimes it is truly out of our control. However, how we respond is a different matter, and I choose to get back up, fight for what I want, and compete to win. So I say to all of you, pursue your dreams with passion, determination, and greatness within you. 2021 is just around the corner, so let's set our goals and be relentless. I'm going to grab a pomegranate super tea by Urban Ice Organics, shameless plug, and wish you a happy holidays and a happy new year. Best regards, Iris. So I don't know about you guys, but this was definitely something I've been wondering about ever since the show wrapped up, is what happened to Iris Kyle, because arguably, if you're talking about female bodybuilding, Iris Kyle is the best to ever do it. And as far as female bodybuilding goes at the Miss Olympia, I don't think there's any competitor that anybody wanted to see on that stage more than Iris Kyle. So hopefully in 2021, Iris will make her return to the Olympia stage, and hopefully all these health issues get resolved and she's 100% better and cleared to compete. But now we finally know what happened. Now, next up in the news, Hadi Choopan and Shaun Clarida. They did a photo shoot together. I showed you guys the photo shoot with Chris Bumstead and Big Ramy. That was an interesting one. Now, here's another one of a bigger guy and a smaller guy. Hadi Choopan, Shaun Clarida. Shaun Clarida, the winner of the 212 Mr. Olympia. And I want to say again, shout out to Shaun Clarida. I think he was one of the most impressive physiques of the entire weekend across all categories, including men's open, classic, men's physique, 212. Shaun's physique impressed me. He was probably one of the three guys I was most impressed with out of everybody. His physique was like the most improved. His conditioning it was just insane. His roundness and fullness. Shaun was amazing, and I don't think it should be understated how good and how high of a caliber of a 212 Mr. Olympia champion he is. He defeated the returning champion in Kamal El Gargni, and he did this photo shoot with Hadi Choopan. Hadi, of course, wound up in 4th at this year's Mr. Olympia, defeating William Bonac, who took 5th, and Akeem Williams, who took 6th, coming just short of beating Phil Heath, but we're going to talk about that in a second. In this photo shoot, I wanted to show you guys because it really proves why Shaun Clarida is known as the Giant Killer. It's hard to say that a guy like Shaun is small because obviously he's ridiculously muscular, but Hadi Choopan is a smaller bodybuilder in men's open from a height standpoint. And putting him next to Shaun Clarida, he looks much bigger, but that just proves how good of shape Shaun was in, how good his conditioning was, and just how far and away the improvements that he made in his physique really made him stand out in that 212 lineup. For a guy of his size, I think he said he was like 180 pounds in the 212 category, which is like over 30 pounds below the cutoff of 212. So for him to win, I think is just extremely impressive. I'm very happy for him. And I thought this comparison with him and Hadi was almost as interesting as the comparison of Bumstead and Big Ramy. Two very different physiques from a size standpoint, even from a shape standpoint, but both of them have a pretty aesthetic look for the size they carry, and it just gives us an interesting comparison. And I said this with the Big Ramy and Bumstead video, and I know that Hadi didn't win men's open bodybuilding, but I would really like to see a pose down at the end of the night on the finals routine of the Olympia between 212, bodybuilding, and classic physique. I want to see all the champions pose down on stage because I think a lot of people would just really like to see the contrast and even maybe some of the similarities between these physiques. Shaun Clarida posing down with Big Ramy and Chris Bumstead, that's what I want to see. It doesn't have to be for an award. It doesn't have to be for a placing. It doesn't have to be for any title, but just for the sheer entertainment of the fans, I think it would add a whole new dimension of entertainment to the Olympia just to cap the night off. And some of the pictures that would come out of that, I think, would just be a great conversation stirrer. So finally here, let's get to Hadi Choopan and Phil Heath. So Hadi Choopan and Phil Heath was my favorite rivalry of the Olympia. I think they were the closest in terms of placings. Phil beat Hadi at prejudging, but Hadi beat Phil at finals on the scorecards. But it turned out that Phil placed 3rd and Hadi took 4th, and Hadi ended up behind Phil, even though he was in 2nd place as of his final scores on the scorecard. And Hadi was very aggressive on stage. He called out Phil. He called out his midsection. He made Phil turn around from the front and pose against Hadi from the front. And overall, I just think it was really competitive because everybody expected Phil to win. And I think there was a real argument to be made of Hadi placing over Phil instead of taking 4th. I would have had Hadi in 3rd. But anyway, Hadi Choopan and Phil Heath are both coached by the same guy, Hani Rambod. And the night after the Olympia, they celebrated Phil Heath's birthday together. They all had a dinner together. Andre Du was there as well. He's also trained and coached by Hani Rambod. So they had kind of a coach and athlete dinner together for Phil's birthday. And it was cool to see Hadi and Phil getting along, being friendly, just having a good time together, not on stage. And it was an interesting dynamic. Like I said with the Ramy thing, it's cool to see what these bodybuilders do behind the scenes because really you're so used to only seeing them on stage just flexing. So it's nice to see the sportsmanship and the camaraderie off stage because nowadays with bodybuilding, that's not something you see a whole lot of. So that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. I hope you guys have a happy holidays. I'm going to see you guys in a video hopefully tomorrow and the day after. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I'll still have videos for you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yes.